So this video is going to help you with the homework assignment if you're having troubles. I'm just going to jump around and do a couple different things. First problem, remember that any individual section needs to add up to 1. So that's going to be 0.2 because those add up to 1, 0.05, etc. And then you multiply through the trees. If you're going to calculate the probability that she will be late for work, she either takes the bus and she's late, so that probability, or she takes the express bus and is late, so that probability. So you're going to find those two by multiplying through the trees and add them together. Okay, we started on this one in class, and people were having a little trouble drawing a tree diagram here. And you make sure you need plenty of space. So the difference here is that we're drawing these earrings out with replacement. So we put them back in after we draw one. So you have 3 different colors: gold, silver, and titanium, or materials. And then you have your probabilities. So 13 out of 35, 10 out of 35, and 12 out of 35. But once you draw it, you put them back in, and then you again have these 3 colors. That's why you need a little more space on your paper. And normally our denominator goes down by 1, but since we're putting them back in and sampling them, we could draw the same earring again. So the denominator is still going to be 35. So basically this tree is going to be repeated on each one of these. And so you're finding the probability they're made of different metals. So you're going to ignore this, anything that's a match. So it's everything but these 3. So it might be easier to find those 3 and take 1 minus those. But you could also add the other 6 if that's what you want to do. Again, drawing the tree diagram has been kind of the problem. So you have 2 suppliers, C and D, of strawberries. So supplier C is 70% of the strawberries. So you got either C or D as your options. And C is 70%. That means D has to be 30%. They supply the rest. And then quality control. So 90% of the strawberries supplied by C pass. So you either pass inspection or you don't pass. And you can note that any way you want to. That just means not pass. And so 95% pass, that means 5% do not. And oops, sorry, I got that one wrong. That was 90%. So this would be 10%. So this one is not as good. And this one, 95% pass. So company C has more, or company D has more passing. So when they ask you questions like find the probability that it passes, well, you're going to find this probability and this, because this is the path that C passes. This is the path that D passes. So you're going to find those 2 and add them together. Given that a strawberry passes QCI, so passes, find the probability it came from supplier D. Okay, so given that it passes, so given P, find the probability that it came from supplier D. So we just found the total amount of passing in A. That is going to be your denominator here. So this formula is the probability that both happened, that it was D and it passed, divided by the probability that it passed. So you just found the passed. It's 2 different things. It's this one and this one. The numerator is going to be the path where it was D and passed. So that 0.3 times 0.95 is going to be your numerator. That's also going to be in the denominator. And the other one would be the 0.7 times 0.9. So use the formula with the given that. In the sample of 2,000 strawberries, find the expected number of strawberries that would fail. So figure out the total probability that would fail. So the failing probabilities are here and here. Add those together. Expected value is always the number of trials or the number in your group times the probability. And then the last question on here is kind of a tricky one. They want the probability of something to pass to be 0.93. And there's a couple ways to think about this. You found out what the probability was already. It's probably less than 0.93. I didn't write the number down. But basically, you can figure this out. If right now 70% come from C, so 70% pass at a 90% rate. And right now 30% pass at a 95% rate. Those together need to add up to 93%. So we're basically adjusting. If we want to raise the number of passing, we need to take more from the category that passes more. So we want it more 95%. So instead of 70-30, it might be 65-35 or 68-32 or whatever. So you're going to raise this. So one way you could do it is guess and check on your calculator. Whatever you raise this by, you lower this one by. Another way to do that is to say I don't know how many I'm going to have in my 90%, and I don't know how many I'm going to have in my 95%, but I know they add up to 1. 0.7 plus 0.3 is 1. So if this is X, then this has to be 1 minus X. And together we want those to be 0.93. So that's another way to figure that out. That's a good hard algebra question. Okay, so the last one here. Choir contains 15 girls and 9 boys. The choir master randomly selects 4 singers from the choir to be interviewed by a newspaper. Find the probability that at least one boy in the 4 singers is selected. So your choices are boy, girl, then boy, girl, and you just keep working this out. So that would be 3, and 4 would be all these other choices. Now, what I would say is if at least one boy of the 4 singers is selected, that means the only case that we can't have is if we get all 4 girls. And so if you figure out this very bottom path right here, which is all girls, you can take 1 minus the probability of all girls, and that makes sure you have at least one boy. At least one could be more than one, but you have at least one boy. That might be the easiest one. You might not even need a tree diagram, because 15 out of 24 girls are selected or are in that group. Now we're down to 23 in the group, and we know 14 of them are girls because we selected one already. And then we're down to 22 and 13 and so forth. That's what's going to be on your tree right there. Then we're down to 12 out of 21. So that actually is the probability for 4 girls. If you take that away from 1, then you have the probability of at least one boy. We'll talk some more about making tree diagrams. This will help you as you work on your homework.